Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of Gen V. It was called Sister Sister. And as the episode starts, we get a little flashback of what Cypher was up to about a month ago, taking care of the burned man whom he said last week was his father, as Sister Sage comes to visit. They start talking business, and she gives him a gift, which happens to be the garden gnome that a month later Kate accidentally made Cypher's security guard perform an intimate act with. But then she slaps him, which he seems to enjoy, and they get busy right in front of the burned man. Back in the present, Marie and Jordan are in the locker room after the fight, and Jordan is rampaging a little because of what Cypher did to them. They say they could feel and see everything that was happening as Cypher controlled their body, and even shifted them without their control, while they were unable to do anything about it, and how that made them feel violated. They also say how terrifying it was when Marie was using her powers against them, because it felt to them like Marie was going to rip them apart. Jordan even says that Cypher was right about Marie's powers, that she's more powerful than she realizes. Cypher then shows up, and Jordan immediately shifts into their male form. For his part, Cypher is unfazed by how pissed Marie and Jordan are, and says he's going to resume training with Marie the next day, but Marie refuses, and Jordan tries to support her right to say no, but Cypher threatens to puppet Jordan again if they don't stay out of it, calling them weak, and threatens Marie with having her join Kate, who is apparently now in Elmira after she betrayed him last week. Naturally, we next see Kate being taken into Elmira, and how she's being forced to get naked and be strip searched by unfeeling guards, including a man who refused to turn around. Her wig comes off and her head wound is exposed, and her prosthetic arm is taken from her. In a last attempt at freedom, when the guard leans in to put her collar on, she tries to push him to set her free and kill the other guards, but her powers are still wonky, so he just tases himself in the groin, and the other guard easily overpowers her and gets the collar on. Back on campus, Marie says she can't just do nothing and let Kate stay in Elmira, no matter what she's done. She says there were days when they were locked in Elmira, all of them, that she thought of killing herself, and she knows that Emma didn't leave her cell even when she was allowed to, and that Jordan cried themselves to sleep every night, and she doesn't wish that kind of torment on her worst enemy. Jordan says it's a suicide mission and that Marie knows this, which is why she didn't come back for them in the first place when she got out. But Marie says she regrets not going back for them and can't sit back and do nothing this time. She says she can be the weapon that Cypher wants her to be, but not for his purposes, for her own, and Jordan decides to help Marie. Emma is still against this and tries to play it like she'd be totally fine if they just left Kate there to rot, but ultimately she decides that she doesn't want the guilt of leaving her there to die on her conscience. She in fact calls Sam to see if she can get his help, but he rejects her and says he can't help because he's visiting his parents. On the flip side, the good news is he says that at least he knows where they're going if something goes wrong. While visiting his parents, Sam learns that he was born with his mental illness and that the compound V was given to him to try to help him. It wasn't what broke his brain. In fact, he had an uncle with the same condition. His mother tells him this to try to help him make peace with it, but it seems to upset him to know that it wasn't an external factor to blame. As Emma, Jordan, and Marie are leaving, Allie's brother Greg shows up to help them pack their car and to go on the mission to help them, but Emma tells him just to stay behind and go to Polarity if they don't come back. Polarity, for his part, is in a meeting with Cypher where he tries to be coy and casual, but Cypher cuts to the chase. He knows that Polarity's been asking around about him and says he has spent a lifetime studying soups and trying to get them to reach their full potential. He says Marie is going to change the world. Polarity asks what really happened to Andre, and Cypher admits he pushed him in an experiment and Andre's body just couldn't take it. This, of course, pisses Polarity off to the point that he uses his telekinesis to put a knife to Cypher's throat, but Cypher hardly flinches and almost seems amused. He grabs the knife and stabs his own hand and then Polarity's steak. He then goes back to work, telling Polarity he's free to stay and eat the steak if he wants. Meanwhile, Emma, Marie, and Jordan climb some fences and get onto the roof of Elmira, but the vent that Marie escaped through is all bricked up now. And then they realize too late that it was all a little too easy, and find themselves smoke-bombed and taken back inside the facility. From inside her cell, Emma can see inside Kate's cell, and we learn that Kate is shocked that they all came to get her out. Of course, Cypher is watching all of this from a security room with a bunch of screens. Sister Sage again shows up, and he congratulates her on being the new CEO of Vought, since Ashley Barrett can't be CEO anymore in her current state. She knows this is what Cypher wanted, and he admits that it is. He says he'll miss his one-on-one training with Marie, but he thinks the environment and putting them under 24/7 pressure is what will bring out the true potential of her powers. Sister Sage then tells him that he can't just try the same thing again and hope for different results. So she's got something for him to change the variables. But she also says something interesting. She says that he's running out of time. Meanwhile, Kate removes one of the staples in the wound on her head and bends it straight so that she can pick the lock on her collar. Cypher tells Marie that if she wants her and her friends to leave, she's going to have to listen and work with him. Marie balks, and Cypher says he doesn't want her to be a weapon, he wants her to be a salvation. Cypher then takes Marie out of her cell, and they make a pit stop in the hallway where Andre died. Cypher says that Marie is an inspiration to people since Andre was following her lead. Their next stop is another cell where we find what Sister Sage promised Cypher. Marie's sister Annabeth is being held in the same facility. Meanwhile, a guard walking by Kate's cell finds her bleeding on the floor, so he goes in to check on her, but of course she was faking it, so she grabs him and tries to push him to unlock her collar, but that gets twisted into him poking himself in the eye with his keys. But this ends up working, and Kate gets herself and Emma out of their cells, and then go to do the same for Marie and Jordan. Jordan is suspicious that no guards or alarms stop them from running through the facility, but Marie doesn't care if they're being set up. She just has to find her sister. When they do get to Annabeth's cell, they find that her throat has been slit and that she's bled out on the floor and is, for all intents and purposes, dead. Marie goes into a kind of a fugue state, and despite the fact that it hurts her friends and makes her own nose bleed, she uses her blood powers to heal Annabeth's wound and restart her heart, bringing her sister back to life. And that's where the episode ended. So I didn't hate this episode, but I didn't think it was very good. I mean, they make it seem like Cypher knew that Marie and the gang were going to try to rescue Kate, but I don't see how he could know that. So I don't know. I thought that was a little strange. I didn't think there was near enough use of anybody's powers in this episode, and I get that's because they were in Elmira and they were trying to keep them from escaping, but like I thought they could have worked some powers in somewhere, a little bit more than they did. It was interesting to see Sister Sage. She was a pretty cool character last season, so I liked seeing her. And the depraved scene where they get it on in front of that burned guy who is supposedly Cypher's father was pretty demented. I wasn't in love with the part of the episode that dealt with Sam because, again, I don't really like this character that much. I mean, I guess he was fine in the previous seasons, but I don't really care about that character. I would have been fine if they had left him out of this season completely because he's not with Emma anymore. And to me, that was the compelling part. You know what I mean? That they had that romance. And now it's just like, I don't know, he seems superfluous to me. So I didn't really care much for the scenes with his character. Although it is interesting to note that it wasn't the V that made him crazy. He was just crazy. So that's kind of interesting. But nobody talks about treatment. They don't mention, hey, let's get you some treatment. That still doesn't come up. And it's just so strange. Once again, they did the thing where the actresses don't show any nudity. And I know it makes me sound like a dirty old man to keep harping on this. Like, why do you care, Barry? Because it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous on a show where they show all kinds of crazy stuff. And then anytime someone is getting it on that's a main cast member or in a, intimate situation, they don't show anything. And it's just like, it's jarring because it's like you're going from watching an R-rated movie, a heavy R-rated movie, for all the swearing and the gore and the depiction of these sexual situations, yet they don't actually show any, so far, female nudity. And it's like you go right to a PG movie, or a PG-13 movie. It's like, what am I watching? Is this an R-rated show for adults on Prime, or is this a show for all audiences on the CW? What am I watching? It's very annoying. And I don't understand why they hire these actresses without securing, a nudity clause. It's just bizarre to me. I don't get it. What I wonder is, what kind of salvation does Cypher think that Marie is going to be? Is he setting her up to take on Homelander? And if so, why? Because certainly it's not because he's a white knight or a good guy. It could be because he wants to be the power behind the throne and he wants Marie to take out Homelander and be the leader of the Seven or the most formidable force on the planet in place of Homelander because he thinks maybe he can control her and that it will bring him power? That's about the only thing I can think of. It's certainly not because he thinks it's for her betterment and he's trying to help her. It's certainly not because he wants to take Homelander out to get humanity out from under his thumb. So it has to be that. And Sister Sage says he's running out of time. And I guess, I don't know, if you follow that train of thought, maybe it's because she feels like Homelander's going to figure it out soon somehow, or hear about it or catch wind of it. And she is the smartest person in the world. So she could be right. There's a good chance that she's right. So we'll have to see. I think it's interesting too that they seem to have discovered a weakness in Cypher in that he doesn't actually enjoy controlling other people, and it certainly seems like it took a lot out of him. So maybe in the next episode or so, it's going to dawn on these kids that he's got a vulnerability, and they'll figure out a way to exploit it. But before they can do that, they have to get out of Elmira, which we're going to see next episode, and I suspect that's going to have a lot to do with Marie kicking a lot of ass. Although she's on an anticoagulant, we learn in this episode as well, so she won't necessarily be able to use her blood powers all the way, although it seems like she did at the end, so maybe it had worn off and she didn't get the next dose. I don't know. We're going to see. But yeah, I thought this episode was okay, and it did move the plot forward in some respects, but it was also a little bit tepid. I didn't think there was enough use of powers. There wasn't enough gore. And once again, the sexy stuff with the women characters was muted, which is silly. But that's really it. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.